LCSC students of African history, Professor Eric Martin here. Getting closer to the end, right? In this video, which I think will be short, I want to talk a little bit about the book Nervous Conditions, about your assignment for nervous conditions. I think it's straightforward. I also think this is useful. So, as far as nervous conditions goes, I want to do it a little bit differently, um, kind of. And really, here's the deal. It's a good book to take with you on spring break or to read while you work during spring break or whatever it is. But the point is, it's a little bit different kind of a read. So it's a piece of historical fiction. So what I'm thinking we can do with this is you if you're going someplace for spring break, take it with you. Otherwise, just read it like you were doing some kind of pleasure reading. But think about it as you go, right? Think about it as you go. And then I want us to have a discussion about it. I've got that organized. I'll show it to you in a second. But really, I mean, the whole main point of the discussion is demonstrate that you read the book and that you thought about it, and then we can call that good, right? So let's talk about the book for just a second. The book, I don't know how much I can talk about the book without giving you some spoilers, but I'm going to give you a few things about the plot, a few things to be on the lookout for, and then I'm just going to let you read it. But the book is one of the most requested books by students who've taken this class to keep using. And I've used a couple of different pieces of African literature in the past. And I remember the first time I read the book and the first time I used the book in the class. I didn't groove on it too hard. It was a lot different than what I expected. And so I was thinking to myself, maybe I will switch it up. So at the end of the semester, I gave like a survey about, switch it up or keep it or whatever. And overwhelmingly, students were like, no, you got to keep this. And that's just kind of been the consistent thing over the years. Now, does that mean that you'll love it? I don't know. Um, but it's a little bit of a different scene. And so on the one hand, we're using this as a historical source. So that would be a little bit different, right? And I want you guys to think about that when we get to the discussions. But let me talk to you a little bit about the book. The book itself is semi autobiographical, right? It is the story itself takes place in the very late periods of colonial Rhodesia. And later on, there'll be some independence movements um, that happen in the storyline. But looking at colonial Rhodesia, and there's several characters in the story, and you can decide who the main character is, right? Um, but the author, the semi autobiographical part, is a Shona girl, um, you know, early teens, living in a very rural community in Shonaland. And so a lot of the book is the portrayal of family life, daily life, personal dynamics. And there's a lot of personal dynamics in the book. And that's the point, or one of the points of the book. And then, through a variety of circumstances, this girl is selected to go to a boarding school in the big city. It's not really in the big city, it's just closer to the city. Sponsored by a Christian church and a European education. And so the story kind of goes back and forth between what's going on at the boarding school during the school year and what's going on back home during Christmas break or during the breaks, and going back and forth. This is what life is like at the boarding school. This is what life is like in Shonaland. That's the main storyline. So you can pay attention to that just in the sense of, what does the world look like to this teenage girl kind of maneuvering between two different scenes. And then the other element, and I brought up a moment ago, a lot of the book's about relationships. And so it's the relationships in Shonaland. And there's a whole bunch of relatives. Who are the different relatives? What are their different reactions to what's going on? How are they interacting with each other? All that kind of thing. And then at the boarding school, there's a whole different set of relationships, and they overlap a little bit with the ones in Shonaland. All right, I won't spoil the book for you. But a lot of the book is really looking at this 1960-ish period in terms of a more and more a group of people within Africa that are more and more Europeanized, but not quite, right? So that's enough. It's an interesting book. Just roll with it, okay? You might need to make a list of names to kind of keep track, right? These are Shona names. I don't want to hear about how, it was so difficult to keep track of the characters, because I've seen the kind of things you guys read, right? With Dumbledore and, Gandalf and whatever. You guys can handle some Shona names. It's not that hard. You probably want to take a few notes as you go. Mostly I want this to be a fun read, but you want to think about it as you go so you don't just entirely forget everything, right? So I'll leave that up to you guys. Let me show you the assignment that I want you to do, and then you can decide how you want to do notes or don't want to do notes or whatever. All right. This is off the discussion boards for nervous conditions. And we're just going to run this. I mean, we can run it for a couple of days, but in general, I want everybody to have something to say by the end of the day of April 25th. All right. 100 words. Read everybody else's post. Don't just say a bunch of stuff everyone else has already said. And if you want to continue it for a while, awesome. So it's kind of structured more or less like the Ibn Battuta in Black Africa and the Sundiata discussion. And if I thought you guys would know what to do with it, this is all I'd say. Now that you've finished reading Nervous Conditions, intelligently discuss it. Just get to it. So read it, discuss it. Keep in mind that you got to use it on your formal essay. So look at the details. And then just here's some issues. Did you enjoy the read? You don't have to enjoy the read. And sometimes one person saying, well, I didn't really enjoy the read because of the focus. Yeah, I'll give you the example. The focus on the personal relationships. That's what I had the issue with the first time I read it. And then I had a number of people like, that is the greatest thing about the book. And it took me a second read to be like, yeah, it actually is. So sometimes that discussion about how we connected with it is kind of cool. Some of us like fiction more than others, right? What are the values and limitations of using this particular type of source for learning history? Don't give me some general, fiction, may or may not be true, whatever. This source. Let's talk about this source. What's the values of this source in terms of a fictional thing? Let's see some details. You guys have seen this other question before about personality in a source, right? That Ibn Battuta document had personality and you had to read through it. The Sundiata document had personality and you had to read through it. This has got personality and you got to read through it. How do you do it? What'd you learn? What surprised you about mid-20th century Rhodesia? What was it like? How are you thinking about using this in your essay? How does it shed light on the economy of the period, politics of the period, society of the period? You guys get the idea. How's it connect to the most recent Basil Davidson video? And then the one thing I didn't really put up here is what happened. The thing that I should put up here, and I'll go back and fix it. What does the title of the book mean? Right? What's the title of the book mean? And so just talk about it. Now, I've created some general threads. So general discussion, you don't want to create your own thread and you don't know where to put it, just reply to general discussion. This one, says what it is. How you thinking about using nervous conditions in the formal essay? What do we think about nervous conditions as a formal source? If you wind up with some kind of particular thread, maybe you want to talk about a particular character, just create something. But I want some kind of organization to the discussion here. That seems good enough to me. Enjoy the read. I enjoy the read. If you do enjoy the read, there's a second book. I got it right here. It's called The Book of Not, that continues to follow the character through the next phase of her life. I read it at the recommendation of a student who picked it up and really enjoyed it. I wasn't so into it. But the first book, yeah. So anyway, enjoy your reading. Don't forget about that formal essay that's coming up. Enjoy your historical studies. And don't think twice about contacting me if you need something. All right, good luck.